In this question, you will be asked to give your opinion about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response and 45 seconds to speak. Some people enjoy spending their free time alone in activities such as reading, thinking, or writing. Others enjoy spending their free time in shared activities with other people. Which do you prefer, and why?
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will read a short passage about a campus situation and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Read an article from the university newspaper. You will have 45 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now. Now listen to two students discussing the article.
Hey, what do you think of this?
You mean the editor's decision?
Right.
Oh, I think they're right. It's the thing to do.
Really? Why?
Well, hardly anyone reads that section.
You don't think so?
Not really. I mean, they only cover a couple of stories, and most people already know about them before they even get around to reading the campus paper.
True. If you get the local paper, or use the internet, you already know about the major stories.
Exactly. And the coverage is better. I think we should just stick with campus news and stuff.
So, do you think what they're going to replace it with is better?
Definitely. Right now, how do you learn about what's happening on campus?
Mostly from posters in the different buildings, or in the student center.
Right. The information is everywhere, but it's hard to keep track of it. I see stuff posted, but then I forget about it half the time.
So you're saying that with this new section,
You could just cut it out from the newspaper and carry it around and check it any time and know what's taking place, when, and where.
The woman expresses her opinion about the plan announced in the article. Briefly summarize the plan, then state her opinion about the plan, and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will read a short passage on an academic subject and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak.
Read a passage about reference groups from a psychology textbook. You will have 45 seconds to read a passage. Begin reading now.
Now listen to part of a lecture in a sociology class on this topic.
I have an example from my own life that illustrates this. When I first began my university studies, I became friends with a bunch of art students. They were older and fun and very creative, and I thought they were really cool. And they all liked to dress really casually, in t-shirts and jeans and sneakers. That's what they wore all the time, to class, to the library, to dinner, everywhere. T-shirts and jeans and sneakers. So that's what I started wearing too. And I fit right in, and I felt really cool. But then I graduated, moved to Chicago, and got a job. And I started working with some really bright young people who'd already been working at the company for a few years, who were already handling major responsibilities for the company. Really impressive. And sometimes some of us would get together on the weekends, maybe for a concert or a baseball game or something. And at first, I'd just wear a t-shirt and jeans and sneakers. That was, how I was used to dressing. But I soon noticed that my coworkers preferred to dress up a little bit. The men would wear a nice pair of pants, a button-up shirt. The women might wear a fashionable dress and some nice shoes. They dressed in clothes a lot nicer than what I was used to wearing. And I started thinking, that looks really classy, really sharp. And so I started to dress the same way they did, nicer, a little more formal. And I don't know, somehow my t-shirt and jeans and sneakers didn't seem as cool to me anymore.
Using the example from the lecture, explain how people's behavior is affected by reference groups.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
In this question, you will listen to a short lecture. You will then be asked to summarize important information from the lecture. After you hear the question, you will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Now, plants, like animals, and like us for that matter, need nutrients, substances that provide nourishment, to survive, thrive, and grow. We get our nutrients from the food we eat. Plants, though, most plants anyway, absorb their nutrients from the soil, right? Through their root systems? Okay. But there are plants that don't get their nutrients from the soil. The places they grow, the soil is bad, so they get their nutrients from insects instead, from trapping and digesting insects. They're called carnivorous plants. Carnivorous plants capture insects in different ways. They have different trapping mechanisms, active traps and passive traps. A plant with an active trap, a good example is the Venus flytrap. The Venus flytrap actually moves to catch its prey, or parts of it do anyway. Its leaves, it has special leaves that are hinged in the middle. The two halves of the leaf open and close, sort of like a mouth, to catch insects. And on these leaves is a sweet nectar that attracts insects. Insects like this sweet stuff. And when they get lured in and land on the leaf, wham, the leaf springs shut. It's an active trap. And the insect springs it, so to speak. The leaf quickly closes and forms a little cage, trapping the insect between the leaves. The Venus flytrap is then able to digest the insect and get its nutrients. But other carnivorous plants, their methods are passive. They don't have any moving parts to trap things. They have passive traps, like the sundew plant. The sundew plant also produces a sweet nectar that attracts insects. Its leaves are full of little hairs that secrete the sweet substance. But what happens when insects land on the sundew's leaves to get at the sweet nectar? Well, unfortunately for the insects, the hairs on the leaves also produce a super sticky glue-like substance. So an insect gets stuck in them and can't fly away. It basically gets glued there, allowing the sundew to digest it and absorb nutrients.
Using the examples of the Venus flytrap and the sundew, describe two ways that carnivorous plants get their nutrients.
Please prepare your answer after the beep. Please begin speaking after the beep.
I consider myself a combination of both types of people. On the one hand, I really like to be alone, to read a book, to be able to lie in bed and listen to music in a solitary environment. On the other hand, I feel a rather strong urge to be part of a group, to be part of some conversations or some events, and that's generally in the form of a passive listener. And sometimes I like to contribute to conversations, but generally be on the sidelines.
I prefer to spend my free time with other people and share activities with them. It makes me happy to spend time with my family or friends. I think it's also good for the mental health. There was a time in my life when I was really busy with work and school, but I was still able to give time with my family whenever I get day offs, and it feels like I was recharged. I was telling them about how my week went or how my month went, and usually we just watch movies or shop while catching up. It just feels like they are really supporting me with everything. So I think that being with others during free time is good for our mental health.
The plan is to replace the section about international news with an event calendar. The newspaper um, explains this by stating that they don't feel that they are competent or fast enough to report on the international news with any sort of relevance, and they feel the space will be better mm, serving the students and the community by providing an event calendar. The woman agrees with this and is very happy because she thinks that the major news stories are already covered by other sources of information, and it's nobody uses the newspaper for that purpose. Also, the calendar section is a great place to check all the upcoming events in one place.
The plan stated that there will be no more international news page on the school newspaper because other news sources are better and they can also save space for more important events about the campus. The woman agreed with the plan because she thinks that not a lot of people actually read the international news section, and she said that news are widely spread even before posting it on the newspaper. She also said that school newspapers should just stick with the campus news or events. And another reason she agreed with it is that they can cut out the part where the scheduled events are put on the newspaper and carry it around. It will serve as their reminder.
Reference groups are groups in our social circles that we feel that we belong to or want to belong to, that the groups that contain people we admire, that we want to imitate, and that we feel a strong pull, a strong sense of belonging when um, talking about the group or participating in events of that group. Now, the examples given by the professor discussed two very distinct groups he was part of throughout his life, and he talked about how they influenced his behavior and the way he dressed and the way he spoke and acted. I mean, he was the same person, but because of the groups he was interacting with, he behaved very differently.
According to the passage, we are greatly influenced by our reference groups. Now, reference groups are someone that you interact every day or someone that is really famous and you admire.
The professor explained more about this by giving a personal experience. When he was a university student, he usually spent time with art students. He thought that these students were really cool and he even dressed like them. He started wearing a shirt, jeans, and sneakers everywhere and any event. But after graduating, he moved to Chicago and started working with young people that are really brilliant. These people usually dressed up more nicely by wearing nice pants and button up shirts. Because of them, he also started wearing semi formal clothes.
Carnivorous plants are plants that adapted to obtaining their nutrients by way of using insects that they capture and digesting those insects um, to absorb said nutrients. The first example is of a Venus flytrap that is may be called an active carnivorous plant because it has special leaves that are creased in the middle and look somewhat resembling a mouth that, once triggered, can close up on the insect that is inside it and capture it in a sort of cage. An example of a passive carnivorous plant is the sundew that has a very sticky glue on its leaves that basically glue the insect to the leaf and that way cannot get out.
The professor stated that plants get their nutrients from the soil, but there are plants that doesn't get their nutrients from the soil. Instead, they get it from insects, which is called carnivorous plants. She stated two ways: active trap and passive trap. Now, for active trap, she gave an example of a fly called Venus flytrap, and it moves to catch the prey. It has these special leaves that opens and closes like a mouth. There is like a sweet nectar on the leaves that attract the insects, and once the insects get that nectar from the plant traps the insects by closing the leaves. Now, the passive trap, she gave an example, a sundew. It produces nectar also, or sweet nectar, that attracts the insects. The leaves are packed with little hair. Once the insects get the nectar from the plants, it's impossible for the insects to escape because they are stuck to these hair substance that are very sticky, and that's how they get their nutrients.